what every unit in News and Combat Cold Front says about you. We got a lot of these, so let's every favorite unit by the way. Grunts. You just like the regular version of the game. You like it because it's cheap and it's affordable. Good damage, good price. You like Riflemen because they have just a slightly better armor. However, you probably shouldn't be using the spawn thing. And if you are, then you probably don't use artillery much. If you're a mortar team fan, you know that it's still pretty good. However, there are other options, and I suggest you try out some other stuff. You just need a bunch of damage and range. And with this range and damage, it's pretty good. He's chunky, just like you, and he breaks buildings. So you just need him because he reminds you of Bunker Buster, but it's also slightly cheap. You're an ambush fan, you prefer this over light gun. You like the fact that Bazooka got buffed pretty much in this update, in this version, so you're a good fan of it. However, it's not the best still. Slightly brain rotted, but at the same time this does do pretty good. You wish you could kill the battle tanks easier though. It's huge in damage and it has some nice range. Plus ambush, so you use this. And recoilless rifle is just for even better damage, but even and more capabilities. So I see why you like this, but personally I think recoilless is they're just better grunts with the power of steadfast. So but their only problem is that they don't have a radio. However, I think these are actually better than grunts. Combat medics are pretty good, honestly. They're just kind of like linemen, but better. However, this repair thing really helps them outlive. They're just grunt medics. One of my favorite units, shock troopers, give you the thing of everything that grunts have, except with the added bonus of an ambush and the steadfast. Even the rifles are slightly good too, plus with some armor and health. These are overpowered, except they're two units, so it's harder to deal with. Well, easier that snipers can. You need the mobility, plus you need the damage, so light gunner was there for you. However, I think medium gun is actually better in this situation, as it can attack more and still has some good mobility. You want range, and you want to kill any surrounding infantry around it. However, I think this is really good because its sight is incredible even for now. However, it is very vulnerable and I wish Sniper Team was here. You'll want to go very fast, and if you want to carry one of your troops such as a medium gunner to the front lines, this works. However, it's good honestly. It's just be careful of off-roading. Then you can go for supply half track, in which this just gives you one less mobility but lets you go everywhere farther. You need every infantry. You probably are a Soviet person. I'm kidding. But if you are, then this is a very good thing for you because it's able to go pretty fast and is able to carry many units at once. Recon APC also does really well because this has, while less fuel, actually does it? Yeah, it has less fuel, but you get a radio plus a really good machine gun with great AP. Plus, it has a spawn ability, so you can put even more units, and it's durable too. You know, personally, I don't really like this, honestly. It works, but I feel like APC is better than it, even if the primary machine gun does do well. Unless this, also, I do see the ambulance sign, so unless this is actually an ambulance, then I don't like it. And you should not use this, I don't think this should be your favorite. It's not that expensive, plus has a radio and a good machine gun, and has great armor. However, its only downside is just how much fuel it has. IFV here is able to do pretty good damage with an autocannon plus a machine gun. And since they can attack both ground and air, actually wait, okay. Since they can attack ground and air, it's pretty good for transporting some more expensive infantry. But since it only has two, that's why I say expensive. Plus it's also 110 ticks to place, so it's not that good. You want a slightly cheaper version of a heavy tank or a battle tank because since this has a heavy machine gun, a normal machine gun, and a cannon, this allows you to do some pretty good damage. Assault tank here gives you sighting, plus it has the ability to with crippler and durable, slightly actually the same amount of fuel, and the cannons here can do pretty great damage, but you don't have infantry dealers. battle tank here is able to do huge damage with its stuff, with its machine guns, plus a BT, with which sadly with 3 tiles and not 4, but it's able to do some pretty good damage. And it also has 7 fuel only, so you'll need to resupply it more often. Light tanks can be pretty decent, as they're able to go just pretty well. They could go fast, plus they have the ability with a cannon empty and a machine gun. Tankettes here I think are much better though, as they're not only cheaper, they also give you just... Actually wait, no, they're... Nah, I was kidding about that. Tankettes are not better actually. You get less range, however, it does have a better machine gun and a good cannon still, comparatively. Did I also forget to mention light tank can even carry a unit? Scout Jeeps are able to go a long way with their tires, and they have double move, they have scouting, a radio, and a good amount of fuel. Plus with this machine gun being able to do some damage and a spawn. Armored cars deal significant damage with an autocannon against infantry and lightly armored. Plus with another machine gun here, they also have multi-move and scouting with the same amount of fuel and range. It is slightly more expensive though. Recon cars have the same thing as an armored car with less fuel, but this time with crippler and durable. Plus it has a spawn, machine gun, and cannon to deal with all. Tank Hunter is very expensive, however, its cannon here can deal a huge amount of damage. Actually, some has more damage than has the same amount of almost the same amount of damage as a battle tank here, except with less AP. And of course, a machine gun. Recon tanks are pretty expensive, however, for this you get some good armor plus a good cannon to deal damage, with a radio as well, so it's able to survive quite longer. These guys are even more expensive, however, you get better armor and some better machine gun. Explosive this time. And also this AP here, which is really good at dealing damage. Plus it has active protection, which takes about half damage for ambush and non-tank cannon. Biker does is huge at going for range. With 6 mobility on half tracks and a very huge sight, it's able to capture things very quickly with a good amount of fuel. Plus it has a good assault rifle and a debuff spot, which makes it so it's able to spot enemies and reduce their defense, which can increase their damage. Rangers here are just SMG squads, and they are able to do some pretty decent damage with the submachine gun, but they're also able to use this debuff grenade, which deals some damage and can lower defenses. They can also use Field medics aren't very good at dealing damage, however, the repair here allows them to be able to support infantry here and trucks here, so that way they can heal without needing some sort of supply carrier. Field engineers here are practically the same thing, except with a shotgun here to help deal some different type of damage, a repair here to do the same thing with except using trucks and all that, and the same supply. The repair here has an ammo of infinite, so that's cool. Howitzer can't move without being towed, however this range and damage is very significant. With 3 to 10 tiles of range, it's able to go huge distances. Mobile howitzer here does not even better, however, it's able to do a huge amount of damage still, with slightly better dead zone but less range. But it also has a different RD, which lets it go with a different amount of damage instead. Difference is this can go without having an extra turn, but it does less damage. Plus with a machine gun. Tank destroyers are highly armored and can deal some pretty good damage with their anti-tank MD. This armored car TD is able to not deal as much damage as a tank destroyer. However, it has better range and cheaper cost, and it still has a scouting perk. Missile tank can go extremely fast for slightly more cost and less armor. The ATGM here is able to do incredible damage with its armor piercing, and the machine gun here can deal some good damage as well. Plus, it gets scouted. Heavy tanks are able to do some really huge damage, and it has a multi-attack, so it can use machine guns twice or a heavy cannon with it, which has 70 damage with incredibly low armor piercing, but this does huge damage. Siege tanks are able to, which has the active protection, which I mentioned before, so this way they won't be killed as easily by ambushes. They're expensive, however the siege cannon here does less damage with better armor piercing and a better machine gun. SAPs here are slightly expensive, however their autocannon heavy can deal 75 damage with an armor piercing of 12. This is incredible at dealing against infantry, this second one here can go with has two range, but this one here does 60 damage with less armor piercing. However, it can go farther. Landships are pretty good at dealing against tanks and all that stuff because with their multi-attack with cannons and a machine gun, it's able to do some pretty decent damage against them. Plus a machine gun here, and the only real downside about it is that it just does not have much mobility. Sadly, supply carriers here do not get double supplies. However, it does have 12 ammo with it, and is able to actually use its own machine gun of its kind while being able to do carry a unit as well. And it's 3 times more likely to resist a movement debuff. Combat engineers are able to be like a version of grunts that are able to resist a movement debuff more likely, with the same amount of assault rifle damage, but it has C4 to be just like the SMG squad. Flamethrowers here are able to do incredible damage to infantry. Not only can they resist the movement debuff, but they have a 3 out of 10 chance to stun an enemy. The flame here not only can do some pretty good damage, however, if an enemy is inside terrain, this can basically one-shot them. Flame launchers here are able to do less damage, however they have a suppressor which is 2 times more likely to apply movement debuff. It has more range, but does less damage, but it's still good for dealing some pretty good damage against people in terrain. CEV is not really too expensive to afford. Its cannon here can deal some some okay damage, but the auto GL here also does pretty good damage here, and the machine gun as well, with the multi-attack and the destruction, so it can destroy buildings in urban terrain. Bunker Buster is able to deal huge damage. Not only can it one-shot any urban terrain in the game with cannon HY, this does 60 damage with 7.5 AP and has 1 to 3 range with plus 2 radio tiles. Also 1.5 times more likely to apply movement debuff and 1.25 times more likely. I don't know why they did it like that, but it's okay. The auto GL here allows it to do some other good damage besides using its cannon HY. And that's every single unit in the game, just explained very quickly. Subscribe because this video took a whopping 13 minutes and 5 seconds that you see. This actually took me about 20 minutes.